What's going on, y'all? How's everybody been doing? So I know it's been a minute. Everything's been going pretty well. What's today? Today is Tuesday. We just left out of Valdosta, headed down to Tampa, 226 miles. Got a set, came out of Hickory, 18 on the lead, 16 on the rear, not too bad. So everything's been going, things have actually not been going so great. I may or may not have jinxed myself. You know, we are a little bit slower, you know. Prior to doing, you know, those previous vlogs, I was running pretty good, you know, hitting about 2,600 miles a week. And whenever I did that last vlog, that very next week was probably my worst week I've ever had since working here. I don't know, freight volume that particular week was low. I ended my week with 1,700 miles for the entire week. And mind you, you know, for those of y'all that are new to the channel, you know, I run the system, which means I'm out 5 days a week, right? And to put the icing on the cake, the Friday of that week, I had started in Tampa, and I went from Tampa to Orlando, and I kid you not, I was done after that. You know, I got to Orlando, and they were like, "Yeah, I don't have anything." They literally had no freight. He said, "I got 2 drivers ahead of you," because mind you, you know, when it comes to the wilds, you know, first in, first out. He's like, "I got nothing. I got, you know, a wild Fort Myers driver ahead of you, and then some other wild driver, they got a Jax that was there." So I said, "You know what? Just send me home," you know. He was like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah." So he called Central. He's like, "Hey, I got Orlando 901, you know, if you don't have nothing, you know, he's willing to go." So I went home, and the reason why I did that is because I was already, you know, my week was already screwed. So it's like, I'm not gonna kill myself, you know, on Friday, you know. Just send me home, and we'll try again Monday. Then Monday, which would have been last week, you know, it started off rough, but it ended off good. I ended up with just under 2,500, and you know, that's what I try to aim for. You know, if I can get 25, I'm good with that. You know, like I said, if I can get more, I'm good with that as well. So Monday, which would have been last night, did pretty well. Started in, of course, Orlando. Went from Orlando to Tampa. When I got to Tampa, they sent me up to Valdosta. Then from Val, went to Jax, back to Val. So just over 500 miles. But yeah, so when I came in yesterday, I got word that on the upcoming bid, they may or may not be adding another team truck, you know, to Orlando. So of course, you know, our manager was asking everybody, you know, who would be interested in it. I don't know, y'all. I'm on the fence if I'm gonna do it or not. Now the only thing is, it's a wild team truck, so that means you are truly at the mercy of Central. And I do know, because we do have one wild team out of our, I do they do get some good miles, because I ran into them. I think the last time I saw our wild team is when I was down in Laredo. You know, I was chopping it up with them. They were saying, you know, they get some pretty good miles. They do see a lot of Texas, which I do like. So I don't know, we'll have to see. But I am gonna talk to my terminal manager and see if I can maybe bring somebody from the outside to run it with me, because that's pretty much the only way I would really entertain doing it, is if I can, you know, pick my partner. Because honestly, I don't really know anybody in Orlando. So I'm, you know, since I'm so out of touch with the people in Orlando, I only see Orlando, like I said, Monday and Saturday when it's my day to go home. So I'm actually gonna call him in the morning and see if I can bring somebody on. I already have an idea of who I want to bring, and me and this person already talked about it. He's all for it, so it's just a matter of if they'll allow it or not. But you know, I'll keep y'all updated on that. So that's the little mini update. I'm gonna put on some time lapse, and I will check in with you guys when I get a little closer to Tampa. All right, y'all. So if you guys saw that that press conference, you know, regarding the whole immigration, you know, crackdown at these weigh stations and agricultural checkpoints. This little ag checkpoint here, I don't know if y'all can see it. This is where they had that conference at. This is Live Oak. I don't know. This is just my take on it. They can fool other people, but they're not fooling me. You know, I don't know. I just can't take it serious. You know, I'm not saying that I don't agree, you know, with the whole immigration thing, but I haven't stopped at an ag checkpoint in probably 6 years, right? Reason being is, for one, I get the bypass, and for two, I don't haul the things that they're looking for. You know, that sign says, you know, agriculture, horticulture, and aquaculture. I haul none of those things, right? Now, I will tell you, that particular ag checkpoint, those boys and women, they will run you down if you blow it. I see it all the time, especially those box trucks. Blow past that checkpoint if you want to, but they gonna get you. But you know, the whole Florida scales, you know, I feel like it's a waste of money, right? From what I read, I think it's gonna be what, 23 or 28 checkpoints or something. Like, I can't take it serious. Reason being is, let's talk about the weigh stations in Florida. So in the daytime, you know, you do have actual FHP, Florida Highway Patrol officers, you know, that specialize in, you know, commercial enforcement, right? At nighttime, you will not see a state trooper in the scale house. Now, Florida's one of those states where, you know, the scales are always open, but they have civilians working those weight stations, meaning you could run that scale and they won't go after you. Don't worry about how I know that, just know I know. You can blow that scale and they will not go after you. Now, in Florida, the scales that we have, it'll say either enter or bypass. Now, from my understanding, if you're in the middle lane, that sign won't read your truck, right? So my thing is, how are they gonna enforce, you know, this whole immigration if you don't even have the proper officers, you know, running, you know, the weigh stations, you know? Now, granted, of course, if you're hauling, you know, reefer or whatever, you blow the checkpoint, they'll go after you. But this is just my opinion, you know. All they're gonna do is, one, stop taking loads into Florida, or they're just gonna find ways to go around that ag checkpoint, you know. Now, there's ways, of course, you know, to get around these weight stations, but with the ag, all they're gonna do, again, is just find a way around it. Now, let's talk about these new checkpoints that they're supposed to be putting into place. You know, this is just my theory is, of course, they're probably gonna go hard maybe the first few weeks, and then after that, they're probably gonna start slacking off, and then you're gonna start seeing them be closed, and eventually you'll probably never see them reopen. You know, of course, since they had that tragic accident on the turnpike, of course now, you know, it's, oh, we gotta do something, but I just don't think they're gonna have that same energy once this whole thing dies down. That's just my opinion. What do y'all think? You know. I actually just got off with dispatch, and from here they got me going, to my surprise, well, not really surprised, but they actually got me going to Orlando. So when I get to Orlando, I should be there in time for the break bulk closeout. And from what I'm understanding, they've been heavy on southbound freight, so from there I could end up going to West Palm, Fort Myers, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Pompano, just to name a few. Or, you know, I could end up going north to maybe Jacksonville, but as I always tell y'all, we will see. So let's go ahead and get this dropped. Ourselves on yard move, and let's get this dropped. So I always try to be proactive, work smarter, not harder. You know, you have some drivers that'll, you know, ride to a terminal, stop the truck, go inside, figure out what they're doing, then drop the set. Then have to go back. Me, I try to only go in the office one time. I try to. Meaning I'll already know, you know, what trailers I'm taking before I get there. What's that, dolly? And this is actually the set that I'm taking right here. Now, best case scenario is I end up right back here. That way I can go home for the day. And I actually only live 12 minutes, you know, from the Tampa yard. But as y'all know, I run out of the Orlando yard. So. All right. Tell y'all, get under. You know what? Almost forgot, y'all. As I always say, even though this is already hooked, I'm still gonna check everything, because like I said, I'd rather cover my own, you know. always assume that there's something wrong. So like I said, I do my due diligence and checking, making sure everything is good. You know. But I can say, you know, the company, they do a pretty good job in, you know, maintaining the equipment, everything from the trucks, you know, to the trailers, all the way down to the dollies. You know, I will say they do a pretty good job, you know. And it's not too often that I, you know, have to go to the shop for something. Because like I said, they do a decent job. All right, y'all, let me get myself dispatched out of here and I will catch up with you guys in just a moment. Alrighty, and just like that, we have made it to my home terminal of Orlando. So I had said earlier that when I get here, I'm probably gonna go south, since when I spoke to the dispatcher, they said, you know, they're heavy on southbound freight. And I get here and surprisingly, I'm not going south. I'm going right back up to Valdosta. So not gonna lie, I'm kind of relieved that I'm going back north, because I was not mentally prepared for that turnpike. You know, it's just something about it. It's just like mentally draining. You know, it's dark, boring. It's just, ugh. I hate it. So from here to there is 217 miles. And I imagine, if I had to guess, I'm probably gonna end my day there. And if anything, the only place I could see myself going, because by the time I get up there, it'll probably be closer to 5 a.m. So I'm thinking they'll probably put me to bed there. They could send me to Jacksonville. Maybe even Albany, if they have any Albany freight left up, which I highly doubt, but I can pretty much count on either going to Jacksonville or they put me to bed there. So, and by the way, if I forgot to mention, I will be taking a set of empties. And before I do, I actually need to run by the tractor shop. And a good thing about Orlando is our shop here is 24 hours, you know, so let's see, where can I drop this? But all right, let me get this dropped, run over to the shop, and I will catch up with y'all in a second. All right, y'all, so I think I'm gonna end it right here, and we're gonna pick it up from this point in the next one. So as I always tell y'all, thank you to all my day one subscribers. Thank you to all my new subscribers. Appreciate all of y'all, and as I always tell y'all, y'all take it easy, y'all stay safe, and I'll see y'all in the next one.